Hello everybody on YouTube. How you guys today? Well, today's topic of this vintage piece of technology right here, the Toshiba Stereo Receiver SA320 model, and how did I do the modification of putting a newer style antenna connector on this auto receiver. Was a very simple and easy job, by the way, but you do need to be careful if you are going to be working on the inside of one of these vintage pieces of equipment. And by the way, if you do not know how to solder or you do not know how to operate a drill, please do not do this because you might actually damage and ruin your system itself. Now, the biggest problem is coming down on where to place the new connector. And by the way, I am using the plastic straw for a pointer. Once I turn this on and do a little bit of a radio test on this, that's the reason why I'm using this, okay? But you guys can see the whole layout of the schematic and the circuitry of this vintage piece of technology. This is from 1960s to the 1970s, I think. I'm not 100% sure on that. Now, the location I actually put the new antenna BCN connector female was on this side. If you guys can see, it's right here. It's very small. Where this black wire is, that's where my new antenna lead is. This actually has a dual radio. It has FM and AM tuner on it. Here's the tuner code. It's over here. This is the power supply. It's over here. The transformer is right here. The left and right channel is over here for the audio for 4 speakers. For this stereo, it has A and B speakers. That's what's nice about this unit. But I really want this explained to you guys. If you're going to do this modification, please have this unplugged when you're working on it. Please have it drained before you do any type of modding on your older vintage pieces of equipment. By the way, this might decrease the value of your system if you do this little upgrade and mod as well. But I loved it. I truly am happy with what I did with this modification on this receiver. Now you notice here is my leads here. This is my wires right here. You guys noticed they're taped up and they're zip tied together to keep off of the main power supply for no interference from the mains to the antenna. That's typically the why the antenna is all the way over here. But I have left the main antenna connectors alone. I did not disconnect these at all. This is the old school style screw-on connectors for crimp-on units like old cable jacks and old crimp-on connectors that have those little like a horseshoe kind of thing you can screw up on these here on the back of my radio. But it's a very nicely done job. Neat, and it's nice. And here we have a little bit of solder here. I tinned the wires. You guys can see this brown cable here, the shorter one, is actually my ground lead. What I should have used was the black piece of cable, but I just went ahead and used the exact same cable. And this longer lead here is my antenna input wire. That's coming from this. So you guys can see I soldered it and I shrink wrapped it and everything else, and it looks a whole lot nicer. But if you really are curious on the type of connectors on the back, you guys can see that's all it is. That's the BCN connector. This is the male end. The female is on the back, and I can connect newer style antennas with this unit, and I really enjoy using different type of antennas. You can use indoor or outdoor antenna. But if you're going to use a outdoor antenna, please make sure your outdoor antenna is earthed and grounded, and make sure you do protect your system. This is a metal chassis and a aluminum faceplate with a wooden top as well. I took the wooden top off so you guys can actually see what it looks like on the inside of one of these vintage pieces of technology. Now, what we're going to do is turn it on, okay? And you guys can see it all works just fine. No issues here. That's why I'm using this plastic straw as my pointing tool. Everything seems to work. You can't see what's on the display over here. It's just some lights and FM stereo status light on this unit as well. And we do have some strength meters and on meters on this as well. Very nicely designed and nicely done by me. Typically, this is not a factory install, by the way. This is a aftermarket install by me. I learned a little bit more about doing this myself, and I was very curious on how I can actually do it. Now, while we have it on is FM, I do not have the AM hooked up to this yet. That would be maybe eventually a different story, but I don't listen to the AM really that much because I don't really pick it up here where I live. I mostly just pick up FM with this unit. And by the way, this is just a receiver. It receives signals from radio waves from outside and brings it into the antenna for this whole thing to actually work. But do be careful if you're going to be drilling any type of holes in your metal chassis. Make sure you do not drill it near your power supply or near your tuning board over here. And by the way, these are both completely separated boards. They're not one board at all, guys. This is all separated VC boards for the tuner and the power supply as well. Biggest problem you're gonna have, please make sure you drill it on this side. Put a block on this side, like a piece of wood or something, and try to protect as much as possible for you do not hit any of your components on your power supply, because this is very hard to get. Most of all these older style circuitries and also older caps as well. You may have to do some investigating and upgrade your capacitors and stuff. But this is all built from the 60s and 70s components. Just be careful with that, okay? I chose this spot. This spot right here is what I chose. Was away from the power supply and away from the tuner board. For I did not run into any issues. Yeah, I could have put it right here, but I could have probably easily hit something on this side with my drill bit. And I couldn't put it here because of my capacitor is right here. And that would have been enough space for the drill bit going in. It would have hit that and I would have been screwed. And this cap would be very, very hard to find. Means I would have to replace the whole power supply itself. But this power supply is very hard to get. Most of all these components on this board is a very hard to get unit. But it's a very nice unit, guys. I do really enjoy it a lot with this type of system on how I got most of it all to work. But doing the testing and doing trial and error, this was a very good setup for me. But yes, I do kind of wish this cable was a little bit nicer. Just maybe a single piece cable would have done. But I wanted to match most of the cabling on the inside. Discriminating this here on the inside of the board. This is your tuner side power supply, your transformer, and also your left and right audio is on this side. Everything's all separated from each other, very isolated and very nice. But here and here, this is what you gotta worry about the most. Right here is the antenna. You do not need to worry about this, this, or this, or this. This is where you gotta put your antenna port, right here. The new antenna, over here. You just cut the wire solder to this, heat shrink it, and route it on the back of here, and you have an antenna. Make sure you use stranded copper wire. Do not use a solid copper wire. It will not work for this. And make sure it's insulated. Make sure you do not have any exposed copper touching the frame of your chassis, because it will ground out on it. Now, we're going to do a little test here and show you this actually works. We're going to turn up the volume just a little bit for you guys can understand how this new antenna works for me and what's the advantage of me using a different style antenna. Alright, let's go ahead and show you what I mean here, guys. You guys can see crystal clear music, no static, but on some stations it can be very static. It only depends on where your antenna is pointing. By the way, my antenna is stuck on my window with some Velcro and everything else, but I will actually would love to upgrade my antenna to a outside antenna, and that would actually make it a little bit better before I can actually pick up more stations on this analog radio. Yes, this is analog, guys. This is not the digital version of the receivers they actually have out. But I actually checked some of the prices on them. They're just too damn expensive for me. I enjoy listening to my old school pieces of technology, and I think it works just fine for me. I really understand on how this all works. Okay. New antenna. Old antenna. You can only use one. You cannot use two, guys. You cannot use two antennas on this. It only has to be one or the other one. If you try to use two antennas, you're going to cancel something out on it. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this little guy off. And trust me, I did that test, and I literally canceled out the antenna from my main antenna here, because this is now my main antenna. This is now just a secondary antenna. In case if you want to go back to the old school way of using copper wire as well, to wrap it around, use crimp-on connectors or whatever you want to call them, and you can use it that way as well. But this is a lot easier for me, guys. I think it's a nice and easy done function for this radio. I enjoy my radio. I enjoy listening to the FM. But alright, guys, mostly important, main. Do not use two antennas. Use one. But this is just my setup where you guys can look at it. It's an awesome setup. I think it is a done job here. Case closed. No a lot of issues. Alright, guys, if you guys are brand new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment down below if you really want to know more about this older vintage pieces of technology. I will gladly show you and gladly explain to you on what I actually did with the antenna mod. Alright, peace out. Bye, guys. We'll hopefully see you in the next vlog. Thank you for watching today's vlog.